transform mindfulness into my regular classes. And one of the elements that I ask, the point that I was trying to do, sorry, I just woke up from a nap, so my thoughts are a little slow.
No
But
problem.
but the point that I was
Self-care.
trying shit, the point that I was trying to make is that since a lot of us are spending so much of our time in our apartments or houses, so I'm asking everyone in classes, look to one side. What do you see? Do you see a window? What do you see through the window? What element of nature can you relate to through your window? What are the colors that you see? And it kind of, I know there is a whole brain research backing up what I'm saying, which I don't know about it, but it's so nice to have someone getting out of their heads and connect to nature, even if they don't have access to it, even if they
Definitely.
don't.
I think being able to point out three different things also helps you feel grounded. And then when it's related to nature, I think you can also connect that to gratitude, so being
Yeah,
grateful to be able to see these, to have these views, to be living in a house.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was just adjusting the volume.
Oh, no worries. Is it too
Technology.
quiet?
No, no, no. It's perfect.
Okay.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's actually interesting because when we moved to Miami, my husband and I about 4 years ago, one of the main reasons why we decided to move from New York back into Miami, the main reason was to um, improve our quality of life in a sense that we didn't want to spend so much time running around, going to places like from work, one place to the other. And we wanted to be close to the ocean and a warmer weather. And, uh, and that's pretty much one of the decisions that made us move south to Florida. Just nature, just being able
Mhm.
to be connected, grounded in a way. Yeah. So it's a very interesting time. Now with everything that's going on, it's been quite a challenge, as you probably know. Um, I don't know how it is the situation in Canada, by the way. Let me ask
Um,
you.
I don't think it's as bad as it is in the US, but we are still quarantined and we still have our
Okay.
lockdowns and
How
closed.
long you guys been in quarantine for?
Um, I would say would have been closer to the end of March.
The end of March.
So it was around the same time. So shortly after the US called it, we had called it as well. And I think it took a while for people to actually get started and
Yeah.
to follow the rules of quarantine. I think the more cases that showed up, that's when people started to get more
Yeah.
serious about it.
Yeah. It's interesting for me to see at a I mean, trying to see the way society responds to threats. Like, I mean, I hope we can all agree that this is a threat for our health, for our communities. And it's interesting to me to see the different reactions from different politicians or different countries
Mm-hmm.
and how they apply their measures, the new requirements, and how some of them wait to last minute, others prepare from the very beginning, and also forget about the level of our officials. For me, it's very interesting to see how just normal people on the street, for example, here in Miami, something that it's been going on in New York for a while, like around, I think it's 7 p.m., everyone start clapping and honoring the first responders and
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement and everyone who's in the front of the line, um, uh, helping and protecting us. And it started to happen here in Miami. So, for example, yesterday I crossed the street briefly just to walk my dog. Some of you are saying almost a month for India. Okay, wow. So I crossed the street to walk my dog, and then everyone started clapping out of the balconies, and I remember that's what they're doing every day around 7 p.m. There's this big uh, recognition for the work of so many doctors, so many law enforcement who are doing extremely long shifts. And then in the other hand, I look down to my balcony and I see people working out right by the water, like next to each other, like tens of, couples of people. And I'm like, didn't you get the memo? What's happening in the world?
Exactly. And that's what I've noticed here too. There are some people who are really taking precautions, and businesses as well. So even the grocery stores, they have certain hours for the elderly, and certain times that you can go, and there's a certain amount of people that they'll let in at the same time.
Yes,
But then at the same time, you'll see people going to the dog park and socializing, and they're not
yes,
maintaining enough distance. So, it's one thing to go for a walk or take your dog for a walk. It's another thing to just stand there and linger and talk to people and not maintain that distance. So I think it's
I
just
know.
something that people need to be educated about, because there's, on one hand, there's people who are so fearful, and they're just watching the news every day and wondering what they're going to do next, what the government's going to tell them to do next. And on the other hand, there's people who are like, oh, well, it's not going to affect me, so I'm just going to go
Yeah,
ahead and do what I want to do. And it's just trying to get somewhere in the middle,
yeah.
where it's like
It's, I mean,
you can step out, you can get your exercise, just
yeah.
maintain the rules, stay away from other people.
It's so interesting to me to see how quickly everything is moving, how quickly we are all learning, and when you think about a small group of people, when you attend a training, a seminar, an online training, and somebody's delivering information and you're learning. But this is for the first time, I think, that everyone is trying to educate everyone at the same time all around the globe, and it's a little chaos, and I think it's it's that's the way it should be, considering the amount of people that we live in this planet. Um, I remember going back to the subject that we were talking last weekend, um, right here in the same channel. We were talking about excitement. So every time that I feel that kind of judgment coming, like looking at someone and saying, uh, why are you doing this? You should be covering your mouth, or you shouldn't be out. Then I try to remember, listen, everyone is processing this in a different way. The only thing that we can do is taking care of ourselves. And ultimately, I believe that there's always a lesson, there's always a teaching, there's always some kind of learning associated to everything that we go through. And I don't think this is an exception. And with that being said, I, I check with myself and I check with my people every week, and I still feel that this is a very powerful time if you know how to assimilate the information, how to navigate the strong emotions that you might go through, how to deal with your own unresolved feelings. I do think there's going to be a lot of growth coming out of this situation, and growth is usually associated with a lot of pain as well. So I think there's a level of excitement on my end from the point of view of people like us, that we are very conscious of human growth and evolution and self-realization. But it's gonna come to with a certain level of suffering, like you will say in Buddhism. Thank you, Nadia. So it's an excitement. Um, it's an excitement with a level of compassion, I think. And every time that I see all these people walking around together, or not following let's say, the rules, I'm trying to be very compassionate instead of jumping into, you shouldn't be doing that. Why are you putting everyone at risk? In fact, here's an interesting thought. I mean, not thought, but a real situation. So we are in Miami, and there's this whole belief that because you're in a warm climate weather, the virus is not as it doesn't spread as quickly as if you were on Canada or New York, which I don't know. I don't think that's true, and I haven't read anything about it. But like 2 days ago, our building, the management from our building, they sent us the email saying, we have confirmed the first case in our building. And obviously I'm like, I freaked out for 30 seconds and I was like, what are you sending that email? What, I mean, what am I gonna do? Like if I did, I mean, every time that we go out, we are cautious of everyone. Um, but I had that moment that I went into kind of panic, anxiety, judgment, and then I even got upset with the management of the building for sending that email. And then I started thinking, what am I doing this to myself? You know, they're just letting us know. We all knew, we all know, it's not only happening here, it's happening everywhere. But I have within myself the opportunity to learn from all these new experiences and use them in a way that um, can help us grow as human beings. And in a personal level, I took a moment of reflection on that and saying, you know, thank you for letting us know and moving on, and keep every day or every moment trying to stay in the moment and trying to stay as positive as I can. And it's not easy, you know, it's not easy.
I think the key here is to check in with yourself and maintain that high vibration, because it's so easy to, there's news everywhere and there's people talking about it and there's so much fear being pumped into the media.
Yeah,
And it's okay to see that and feel something, but just check in with yourself and
yeah,
understand where it's coming from and what you can do to raise the vibration, because it starts with you. So
yeah,
if you raise your vibration and you feel
yeah,
positive, the people you talk to, communicate with, or who live with you, they're going to feel that way, and it's just going to keep spreading. And so that's how you spread
yeah,
positivity and also I would say love and
yeah.
positive emotions, and raise the vibration collectively.
It's interesting to me because about 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago I was teaching one of my classes live. As you know, all the outlets where I usually teach yoga, like fitness centers or yoga studios, everything shut down, including all the different places that we go through our nonprofit, such as schools, shelters, hospitals, and with a partnership through another nonprofit, prisons. So all of that work, you know, ended up being from one day to the other shut down. So everything moved to online. And so I was teaching one of my classes. I think this was like 2 weeks ago, and there was a moment of the classes that, you know, everything felt too raw and real, and I couldn't handle it. I mean, maybe that's not the right way of putting it, but I got very emotional thinking about what everything is experiencing, what everyone is going on. And I kind of have like one of those ugly cries right in front of camera. and,
We
and then
need
I
that
said,
sometimes.
we need that sometimes. And then people were so affectionate, and I keep coming back to the same subject. I don't want to say to whoever is tuning in, and I read some of your comments as we're going. I don't want to say that you should be, oh, happy, this is great, this is wonderful what the world is going through. But you know, it's making, let's put it this way, we'll never become more compassionate and more empathetic because everything is beautiful and wonderful. We become more empathetic, more loving, more real. We put our feet into the ground and we reach our hands into action and helping others when shit gets real. And so that's what's happening. So yeah, crying is
Yeah,
good. So
crying is good. You got to purge it.
yeah,
Feel those emotions. Don't suppress them. And then once you do, just don't stay in that negative emotion. Try to rise about that by
yeah,
meditating, journaling, listening to
yeah,
happy music, screaming if you must, whatever helps you release that emotion.
Believe me, I try those, and I even tried to add some of those elements into my yoga classes. And my morning class, I was saying, everyone, you know what? Don't tune in to my class thinking this is going to be a yoga class that is one way, that is me as a teacher teaching you how to do a posture. I'm throwing the yoga teacher out of the window. I'm on the mat with you doing the practice. I might be guiding and cueing the practice, but I'm processing the same things that you are processing, and I'm in desperate need of the practice as you are. And this is excitement. Going back to the topic of excitement, I'm actually been writing an article for that I'm going to submit to Elephant Journal, which is one of the largest yoga websites and mind body content online. And pretty much the article talks about that, talks about the why you should be excited about being someone who is into yoga, into meditation. Why you should be excited if you're in the field of helping people. I know there's a lot of difficult jobs right now. I mean, if I go to a doctor and I tell them you should be excited to be a doctor, they're gonna slap me in the face. But with that being said, if you put things in perspective, how many videos have we all seen of nurses in Italy doing some kind of yoga before entering their shift? How many videos of doctors and nurses in Spain chanting before working? So out of these extreme situation that we're experiencing at a worldwide level, what's happening is that all of these tools, all of these disciplines, all of these ancient techniques that we all are familiar with, they're becoming to our rescue. And they're not only becoming to the rescue of you and I, which are very privileged from having an apartment, a balcony, a backyard. You and I and everyone who's probably tuning in, we are very fortunate that we have a roof over our heads, we have Wi-Fi, we have food in our fridge. But at this moment, these techniques, and some of them, like you mentioned, yoga, meditation, nature, those are the techniques that are also keeping our doctors, our police officers sane. And those are the ones who are taking care of ourselves. So for me, there's a really high level of excitement. The excitement of almost like mentally saying, I told you so, meditation is important, yoga is important. And now everyone is realizing that we all need that mind-body connection more than ever. More than ever, it's becoming obvious.
I agree. Yeah, I think a lot of people are used to, if they get sick, they feel like they can take some sort of medicine and it's going to be a quick fix. Now, this is something that you can't take a quick fix for. So I think people are starting to be more open to doing other things, like actually meditating. I would say turning to nature and eating well and taking care of their immune systems, which is something that I've noticed a lot of people did not do in the past because it was like, hey, I'm just going to buy this Tylenol. I'm just going to buy this drug. It's going to fix everything. And it's really interesting to see that even with my parents, they're like, oh, we got to eat healthy now. Like, let's get more vitamin C in here. Let's take a walk, get some sunlight. And so I've noticed a lot of positive changes there. And for me, that's exciting. It's like, oh my God, people are being healthy now.
Yes. I think that I love what you said about quick fixes, because we live in a society, or societies for most of us, not everywhere around the world, but for most of us who are tuning in, we live in our society that we can have those quick fixes. If we had a very stressful day, I can go to the restaurant across the street and get 2-3 glasses of wine and kind of, okay, let me wind down or relax. We are in societies that allows us those privilege of, you know, having a quick fix of doing this and that. And if you are in a position, in a socioeconomic position where you can afford certain things, to a certain extent, that brings a level of peace of mind and uh, and and allows you perhaps to cushioning some of the pains that are always there, not all of them. But when it comes to a situation like what we're experiencing worldwide at this moment, none of us is exempt to what's happening. You know, I follow Madonna on Instagram. You know, I'm a big fan for Madonna since I was a little gay teenager in Argentina back in the 90s. And so her latest post is about all the people very close to her environment who she lost very recently due to the virus. And so here you have someone like her, someone like everyone will relate to, the, you know, millionaire, very privileged, protected, bodyguards, and yet this is bringing all of us around the world into the same level. All those beliefs that we all knew deep within our hearts, that you are a reflection of myself, that you and I are not apart, that there's no space between you and I, all those things that many of us have been talking about it. The Buddha talked about it, Jesus talked about it. All those very important human truths, that there's no separation, for the first time they're being into the surface, and it's forcing a lot of us, or I would say all of us, to wake up. And you have an opportunity to decide, how do you want to wake up? Do you want to wake up like if you just woke up from a very sweet nap, like I just did, by the way? I told you, you and I were sending us messages. I told you I was going to take a nap before our live. Or you want to wake up like if you had the worst nightmare and you wake up with chills and screaming. Mm-hmm. Do I think the one is better than the other? No. But I'm going to go back to the same subject. These times are happening for us to wake up. You can choose how you want to wake up. You can look the other way if you want to. But let's all wake up and do something with this level of awareness that it's palpable everywhere. Happy Easter, you too. But yeah, it's the quick fixes don't work on quarantine. Like I'm very fortunate, and for everyone who's tuning in, and I know that there might be a lot of people who might be in very difficult situations right now. Like when I teach my classes, I'm very conscious that I have practitioners, students who might be tuning in from shelters from all around the world, because that's one of the populations that we teach through our nonprofit. So I'm very aware and conscious of that. When I speak in first person, I'm talking from someone who is in a very privileged situation. I have a roof over my head, I have enough money to pay my rent, and I have enough food. But not all of us are in that situation. So it's important to acknowledge where we are and what do we do once we wake up.
So we have a question here from Sonia.
Okay, I'm curious, how do you still follow Madonna knowing where her energy is aligned? I probably follow 10,000 people, and if you ask me why do I follow those 10,000 people over the last 8 years, I cannot answer that. She just appears on my lead, and I wouldn't dwell, not even for a second, in knowing where her energy is aligned, because I'm not God and I wouldn't waste my time judging. But with that being said, I'm just going to mention that when I read her post, it was very interesting to see how someone with her reach is also freaking out. And that was the only reason why we brought Madonna into the conversation. So I don't want this to turn into a Madonna conversation, but replace the name Madonna from whatever celebrity you put in a pedestal, and each of us, we have our own, and no judgment about that. And think about that, even at that level of success or privilege, everyone is experiencing that. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what Madonna came into the conversation. But I have to say, I love a lot of her songs, and we could have another private conversation. Is dealing with this shit and is freaking out. That was the main thing. Yeah,
Sounds
exactly.
great.
No more Madonna chat.
So do
Let's
you
move
have
into the
any
next celebrity.
so do you have any tips for the people who are watching that they can share? So a lot of people are staying indoors, staying at home. What can they do, whether it's yoga, or aside from the three things in your room or in nature that you can point out? So in terms of yoga, if there's something that you think would really help them, especially those who are working or sitting all day, and having a hard time getting up and working out.
Uh, it's yeah. Thank you for asking that. Um, Let me get Madonna out of my head because now I'm just singing Madonna.
It's like,
Goodbye, Madonna. Um,
yeah.
so this is the thing that I'm also trying to say to myself and remind myself, and I'm very conscious about it. Uh, I have an interesting mix of people that I work with. One part of my line of work is teaching in Miami and teaching in New York, which are very wealthy populations. Uh, I spent 10 years of my life teaching in New York on Upper East Side, Upper West Side, anywhere in Manhattan, and pretty much the same thing in Miami. I teach for a company, for Equinox, which I think they're also present in Canada. So I have that line of work. And then on the other hand, through my nonprofit, I teach to, I go to prisons, I go to shelters, I go to hospitals. Hopefully when the world comes back to normal, I'm going to go to hospice. So when I think of people being home, I have a lot of people who are home, and they're not necessarily home like I am sometimes, because I need to, like 6 hours on this same couch watching Netflix. But I have a lot of people who are actually home working nonstop. I mean, there's some jobs that they haven't stopped. A lot of my friends in New
And
York.
that's me. Yeah.
Okay, so you can relate to that. So I'm very conscious in saying, okay, what do you do to keep yourself moving? There's a lot of people who are all day working like nothing happens because their jobs, for whatever line of work, they still have to work. They still have to punch in or log in at 7. They have an hour break and they go back until 6 p.m. So with that in mind, whether you're one of those 9 to 5, and again, I'm saying 9 to 5 just to represent everyone who's working a full-time job from home, or whether you're someone in the other hand, someone who got laid off, someone who lost their job, someone who lost all the contracts, or all your clients, they're no longer there, and you find yourself home with only CNN or Fox News or BBC or Madonna's Instagram in front of you. Just kidding, just kidding. So what can you do? What can you do? You can do yoga. Not everyone loves yoga, but it's one of the things that you can do. And many times I change the name yoga for stretching, Many times I changed the name, stretching for movement. Everyone on the fitness industry, anyone on the world of mind body meditation, yoga, has but had by force switched to an online model over the last 2 weeks. So if you haven't seen the amount of offerings are happening online, like today I got an email from ClassPass. Yeah, ClassPass are also moving into a live stream option, or I mean, at least today was the first time that I got a live stream option. So yoga, meditation, I don't know. If you're someone who likes to dance, Zumba. If you're someone who likes to do strengthening. So there are options. You might have to get a little bit resourceful looking online to what to do. But let me actually take this question to link it to our nonprofit and sharing about what we are offering every week. So through my nonprofit, the Warrior Flow Foundation, we're offering close to 80 classes a week, and all of those classes, they happen online, and they range from yoga, meditation, strengthening, aerobics, relaxation classes, sound classes, and we offer all of those classes through my other Instagram, which is Warrior Flow Official, because when we started to notice what was happening, how the world was shifting in front of us really quickly, and everything started to shut down. I said to myself, I'm not going to shut down. I'm a person who needs to be connected. I'm a giver. I'm a person who doesn't say no easily, which sometimes it gets me into trouble. So while a lot of my colleagues in the industry of wellness, and I don't like the word wellness, but by using wellness, I'm referring to yoga, meditation, and all the body-mind centering practices. When all of my colleagues started to shift to teaching online, I knew that I wanted to do something similar. Thank you, yeah. Amelia says on a donation basis. I knew that I wanted to do something like that, but I knew that I couldn't do it alone, nor I didn't want to do it alone. So what happened about 2 weeks and a half ago, I reached out to, I'm a person who over the years from working in Miami and New York, I know a lot of people in the industry, on the wellness industry. So I reached out to a lot of them. A lot of them said yes. A lot of them said no. But the ones who said yes, they're offering a weekly class as part of the Warrior Flow Foundation wellness program. So every day we have somewhere in between 10 to 15 classes online. And as Amelia is reminding me there, it's on a donation based. You don't have to log in. You don't have to give me your email. You don't have to have an username. And yet we created this platform on Vimeo, vimeo.com/warriorflow, where everyone around the world, no matter if they have a yoga mat or equipment, as long as they have the intention and the understanding of the importance of more than ever of moving the body, of calming the mind, and regulating the nervous system to be able to adjust to what's happening in the world, everyone has the opportunity of taking those 80 weekly classes. And the benefit of taking those classes is not only that you, of course, you take care of your body, you get to know trainers, coaches, yoga teachers, meditation teachers from all around the world. But two things that I want to say in relationship to that. You get to experience the feeling of being in part of a community. Because a lot of, not me, I'm lucky enough that I have my husband, but a lot of us, a lot of people around the world, they're navigating these times by themselves. Perhaps for the first time in their lives, they're alone and they're not allowed to talk to someone or be close to someone. So the excitement, that I have is that with the right intention, you can use these channels. Thank you. Yeah, now everyone watching has access to these classes. So you, after our live here with June, you go to Warrior Flow Official and you give us a follow. So thank you. She's like chiming in. Thank you. Love you.
So I think this ties in. So there's a question from Rhea
Yeah,
here, and she says, "How do you think yoga and other practices will change post-quarantine?"
I love that question. So when I was referring about the article that I'm writing, I'm talking about the before and after. And I think there's going to be a huge before and after. And the before and after has to do with the fact that, you know, in our minds, oh, let me learn yoga. Let me go take a 200-hour teacher training. Oh, let me go to the studio. Oh, let me go to India, to the mountains in India to learn yoga or to get yoga. Or, oh, I need to go to a yoga retreat just to center myself. Well, guess what? It's not happening. You're in lockdown. The world is upside down. The world is going bananas. And the only resource that you have to get your yoga fix or your meditation fix is online. So what's happening? Everyone is being forced to learn how to connect online. And the key word, or the word that I want to highlight there, is connection. And for the first time in history, for the first time in humanity, as we know it, we are being forced to be connected by our phones. Our phones are no longer the device to waste time to check Perez Hilton, to check People or New York Times. For the first time, for many, our devices, our screens, our iPads, our laptops are the way that we're keeping each other sane, are the way that we're keeping each other connected. So I see a before and after, specifically in regards to the question about yoga. I think I can talk for hours because this topic, it really excites me. What was the name of the person who asked that question? Rhea?
Yeah.
Thank you, Rhea. I think, and again, it's just my opinion, that there's going to be a change in the way people consume yoga. You know, yoga is an industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I think now everyone was forced to. If you were not on Instagram or Facebook before, you were forced to get an Instagram account, or you were forced to get a Zoom account to be able to take your favorite yoga teacher classes. But my hope is that once all of this is over, I have two hopes after all this is over. One hope is that people, and when I say people, I mean all of us, we understand that at the palm of our hands, we have whatever we need for centering ourselves. You know, we don't need to go to places. Technology is, in certain ways, is at this moment, is showing us there's a way of being connected without necessarily being close to each other. So I'm hopeful that the industry is going to change, that people will understand that, yeah, it's beautiful to go to the yoga studio and to be part of a real community, but it's not always the case. And the other point in relationship of how yoga is going to change with that, I think it's also going to make it more accessible. Because if you think about the way yoga is being distributed these days, there are very few yoga studios in poor neighborhoods. There are not a lot of yoga studios in African American populations. There are not a lot of yoga studios 20, 30 miles away from a cosmopolitan city. So my hope is that by everyone understanding that we can get this amazing, accessibility, exactly. Yes, I'm glad that more yoga bar meditation accounts are using the platform to do classes. That's exactly what we're offering Warrior Flow Official. We have bar classes, we have meditation classes, we have yoga nidra. Every night we finish with a sound class. But let me finish before I lost my track of thought, which is happening very often these days. I'm having a lot of senior moments from spending so much time in my apartment. But that's my hope, that because technology is showing us the way at this moment to be connected, yoga is going to become less of a privilege. It's going to become more accessible for everyone who has a phone and has the intention of finding yoga or meditation or Tai Chi or whatever you're looking for centering. And then because I am a yoga teacher, another layer of expectation or hope or wish is that through the technology, before and after what we're going on, a lot of teachers who might not have had a voice in the past because Instagram was only for the influencers or Facebook was only for the celebrities or yoga celebrities, how they call them now. Everyone, if you have a phone, a smartphone, you have an audience. And if you have a phone and you have an audience, you became an influencer, whether you want it or not. And if you're conscious about the power that you have at the palm of your hand, you can spread your message and you can monetize on it if you want to. And this is the last point that I'm hopeful about yoga, is that yoga teachers understand that we're not dependent necessarily in yoga studios, in clubs or gyms or spas to be successful. Sorry, I think I stretched
Oh no. So
the
you are
response.
the new influencers now.
What am I reading there? Is because yoga is expensive. No one attempts to offer a class in a poor neighborhood. Well, let me tell you, I do. I go to shelters 3 times a week, but I agree. No one. I mean, this is not a judgment against yoga studios, because yoga studios, they're real people like you and I. They need to pay their bills, and they need to pay the rent. But that's a different conversation. But my hope is seeing the big divide that is in our cities, in between where the yoga studios are located, where yoga is being offered. My hope is the same thing that I'm witnessing with hospitals right now. We're working with hospitals through our nonprofit. We're working with first responders. This morning we announced a new partnership with Miami firefighters, EMS, and first responders. We're not able to go to them right now like we would do in normal times, but they need our help. They need our videos, our tutorials, our stress relaxation classes. So things are shifting. There's going to be a before and after, and I think it's exciting. Yeah, I think it's exciting, the before and after, not only for yoga, for many different industries. It's not going to be easy. In the same way that at this moment we have a lot of people suffering, a lot of people dying. So we have to talk about that. You know, we can have a conversation about yoga and privilege, but there's people dying every single day. And this is an adjustment. This is whatever your beliefs are, this is an adjustment to a different frequency, alignment to a different energy, whatever belief you have. But at the same level is happening with technology. A lot of industries, they will have to switch their old school protocols to be able to access their audience, their clients, in a way like you and I were doing right now. Hey.
Definitely.
My hope
Adrian
is
is an
people.
angel.
Yes.
Yes.
And I was reading the previous comment. People do it here at the beach, and they offer donation yoga. Yeah, I get a lot of fire in my end. I have to be honest with you, because since I've started to teach yoga in 2005, I always, for one reason or the other, I try to stay away from the notion of a yoga studio, it was kind of cliche for me, a yoga studio. For some reason, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a lot of time, many years, to understand why I never felt comfortable teaching in a yoga studio, and I always felt more comfortable teaching in a fitness center where people were coming just to do a physical sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the years, as I ended up teaching in shelters, and as I teach at hospitals, and as I go to the police station, I realized that I never felt comfortable with the notion of yoga being something limited for a few that can afford it. And I say this with a lot of respect because those who can afford it are those who pay me, and they allowed me, or they allowed me in the past, to be able to create my own nonprofit. So I'm not judging anyone or myself that it is in a position of privilege, because privilege is not a bad thing if you know what to do with it. You know, I work hard to be where I am. And if you're someone who has the means, you work hard to be where you are. But hopefully you're using that privilege to make someone else's life more tolerable, or you're using your privilege in a way that is making an impact in society. So yes to donation classes, yes to bringing all these tools to uh, underserved populations, because we need to. And maybe this is one of the learnings of everything that's happening in our world. Just become kind. Some of you were saying kind, and although we might be apart and be connected through phones, let's start to look left and right when you're driving on your city, when we're driving through the pretty streets of our cities. What happens when you drive half mile in the other direction and you go to those neighborhoods that you usually wouldn't go? There's a lot of different different scenarios. So perhaps situations like this, you know, they're forcing us to open our eyes to a reality and now, because we're vulnerable and we feel a little more raw inside, maybe at this time we are um, more open to that. So my hope is that all this vulnerability, all this emotion, all this that's happening in this area to all of us, that we're able to channel that into a positive, maybe positive is not the right way, but to channel all of this into action that benefits not only ourselves, but everyone.
Definitely. And so it's almost time for our meditation, and I think
Let's
it's
do
a
that.
good way to channel that energy. So what we're going to do, and this is something we were talking about, I was talking to Amelia about this, that we'd like everyone to do every day at this time, so at 5:55 p.m. So whether it's Eastern time or 5:55 p.m. your time, wherever you may be, just so we can get the community meditating together and
Love that.
focusing on a positive goal. And so, what we're going to do in this meditation now is I'll have everyone close their eyes or sit down in a calm space, and we're going to picture what we'd like the future to look like after this quarantine. So, close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Think about what you'd like this future to look like once you step out of quarantine, a year from now, 2 years from now. Um, Picture clear blue skies, clean air, clean water, more greenery, more kindness. So people being more helpful and kind, people being mindful, meditating, doing yoga, taking care of their health, whether it's mental, spiritual, physical, people doing what makes them happy. So picture yourself in whatever city you may like, and where you'd like to be, where you'd like to see your family, friends, and everyone else on Earth. Picture the Earth that you want to live in. Remember, you are loved, you are supported, and you can make a difference. If you'd like to stay in this meditation for longer, please go ahead. I'm going to have to close the live because our time is almost up. So thank you very much, Adrian.
Thank you, my love.
You're amazing, absolutely perfection, amazing. And I definitely needed to rest. I literally opened my eyes just in time for the live. I've had to sleep all day. My body's just been so tired. So it was so nice to have you guys do that. Thank you. I know that woman. Oh my gosh. I texted June and said if she carries on, just block her. Like, I'm not having her disturb the energy. And I was like, I know all about Madonna, but I'll still dance to Holiday.